Alright, now working with particles is pretty fun, okay? So, we're just doing a simple, actually it's probably not the simplest setup you could come up with, but it's pretty simple, but you can do so many things with particles, whether it's like crowds or bees or just about anything you'd ever want to do with like lots of different things that interact with each other or whatever. You can do that with particles. Has anyone ever worked with particles before? A little bit? Just no, any kind of particles. Most programs have them. For like Maya and Max, they have them. Okay. So what kind of stuff have you guys done with particles?
Simulations like applying weight, gravity, and basic steps.
Yeah. Okay. So you can make like dust with it, or you could make like fluids, or lots of different kind of cool stuff. Okay. So in this case we're gonna make something that demonstrates a bit of the logic behind them, and that'll give us a good sense of how operations are applied. Okay. So the idea is that our bullet will come out of our gun, it'll collide with the wall, and it'll go in two different directions at that point. You'll have a placeholder that records the location that it hit the wall, and you'll also have various other things that bounce off of that, which would be sparks eventually. Okay, so I'm going to make a new geometry object. Now, if we wanted to, we could make a particle network right at object level. All right, but most people don't do that because you have to like import and export stuff out of it. So since particles are essentially points, even though it's a different system with working with points, you're almost always going to turn them into geometry when you're done. So most people don't make a particle network at object level. Most people make your particle network inside of a geometry object. See, and notice it also has these four little guys on the top now, and it's just convenience so you can plug stuff into it. Okay, you can have as many inputs as you want. It's just you only have four at the top. Okay, so all right, so here's my new particle network, and I need a few pieces. Okay, so I'm going to hide other objects at the top. All right, I'm going to bring all my stuff in and plug it into my particle network. Okay. So let's see. What do I use to bring in another object? Object merge. Good job. Here we go. Okay. So first thing I need is my gun, right? So I go to gun, and there's my output null. Okay. There's that. Now the thing we might notice about this gun is I thought I just animated that gun. Okay. Like, whoa, what's going on there? So if I look at my gun here, it's way over here and it's doing this stuff. But when I bring it in, it's not doing anything. All right, so the reason is because we've animated the transform matrix of that object. But we actually have to tell Houdini, hey, I want this to be relative to what I'm doing here. All right, so I could say into this object. All right, transform into this object. And since this object is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, scales 1, basically this object is at the world center. So if you merge something into this object, then and if you transform it into this object, then it's going to actually apply the transform matrix. What I always do is I just type world, and the way to do that is, or itself rather, I do that instead. I don't know why. It's the same thing. Okay. All right. So don't be confused by that. This is how it works. What the point means the same thing as into this object, because it's a point is itself, transformed by itself. If you wanted to transform by the world, you do like, yeah, that didn't work. Nope, still not working. Let's try this. Nope. You'd actually need an object. Yeah. Okay, so we got the gun. Let's call this merge gun. Now I just want, I don't want to be emitting particles out of the whole gun. Okay, so I don't want to spit a bullet off the side or the bottom or anything. I just want this part, right? So for that, I'm going to use a delete operation. Now this gun is animated, so it's really important if you do use a delete operation like this that you either know what you're deleting by a group or that your point count does not change. So here, I'm going to click in the view, delete. I'm going to select it, the polygon, and hit enter. Okay. Now that actually was a different way of doing a node than I've shown previously. I actually did the node in the viewport here, and it applied it onto the object merge. Okay. You could do it this way too, though. I can make a delete here. It hasn't done anything yet. Okay. I'm going to select it. Oh, it did a different one actually. So it's easiest in this case to do it in the viewport. Okay, so it deleted this. I actually want to use that, so instead of going delete selected, I'm going to go delete non-selected. Okay, and it chose polygon number 7. You can see that that's number 7 right there. Okay. All right. Now the other thing is the normals. So if your normals are facing this way, you're good. What that means is that your particles are going to be going in that direction. Particle system will use the normals to give it some force initially. Okay. But if you didn't have normals, you would use a facet and just say post compute normals. So what that means is, regardless of which direction my polygon is facing, set the point normals to the polygon angle. Okay, so this is optional. All right, and I'm just going to go into the first input of the particle network there. Okay, so merging in the gun, isolating the tip, making sure I have properly oriented normals, and going into the first input of a particle network. Okay. Next thing is to merge in my wall. And notice I just copied and pasted there. And the floor. Okay. I'll set both of these guys to have its own local transform applied, and plug that into the second and third input. Okay. So now we have the wall, we have the floor, and we have the tip of the gun. Okay. We haven't done anything in this particle network yet, so right now we don't have any particles. Okay. So I'm just going to show you guys the first node for that. You can play around with that while we're setting up the scene. Source. So source is, the name kind of tells you what it does. It's taking something from the outside and using that as a source to create particles from. So in this case, I'm going to use my geometry source would be the first context geometry, which is the first input right here. There we go. Cool. If we didn't have that delete on there, now it'd be going in all directions from our gun. Okay? So yeah, we can play around with the parameters once we get there, okay? But for right now, let's just try to import all of our stuff and create the delete, then put them into our particle network with a simple source.